question, the number one story for NFL Wildcard Weekend is a first-round matchup between the Rams and Detroit Lions. The Rams are at Detroit next Sunday at 5 p.m. Detroit is where Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford played 12 of his 15 NFL seasons. Stafford came to the Rams in a trade 3 years ago that sent former Rams quarterback Jared Goff to Detroit. Both will be starting on Sunday against their former team. The Lakers snapped their 4-game losing streak Sunday night with a 3-point win over the Clippers. LeBron had 25 points and 7 assists. Shout out to the UCLA women's basketball team. The Bruins are 14-0 after beating Oregon State Sunday. The Bruins are ranked number 2 in the country. They joined Baylor and South Carolina as the only Division I undefeated women's teams in the country. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I have a dream.
On Friday, January 12th, as we head into Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. annual holiday weekend, KBLA Talk 1580 will announce a historic climate justice campaign aimed at California communities of color. KBLA Talk 1580 is joined in this historic effort by both public and private partners including LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, Cal and Dow, the Sierra Club, and many other partners. There's a clear connection between Dr. King's moral conscience on the notion of reverence for all human life and the future of our world house. This year, on the MLK holiday weekend, KBLA assigns itself the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are witnessing in real time. Stay tuned for more details. At KBLA Talk 1580, Climate is King.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
I know a place. Ain't nobody crying. Ain't nobody worried. No. Ain't no smiling faces. No, no. Lying to the races. Help me. Come on. Come on. Somebody help me now. I'll take you there. Help me, y'all. I'll take you there. Help me now. I'll take you there. Oh, I'll take you there.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I don't know if I can take you there, but I'm glad to have you hanging out with us in this hour. It's been an amazing show today. These first 2 hours have been amazing. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with these black magicians. That was rich and beautiful, and I loved it. We switched gears in this hour, but this conversation is going to empower you in ways I think I'm not even sure of at this moment, but I'm excited to have it. Being falsely arrested by Beverly Hills cops for an armed bank robbery gave Charles Belk a new perspective, a new lease on life, if you will. He decided to become an advocate for those wrongfully arrested, but he also decided to make it his mission in life to travel to 100 countries, and to share those experiences as a way of empowering others. He has, at my last count, we'll get an update in a moment, traveled to about 77 countries around the globe, and I am delighted to have a conversation right now with Charles Belk on Tavis Smiley. Charles Belk, how are you today, sir?
I'm good, Tavis. Thank you for having me.
Man, it's my great honor to hear your voice. Good to have you on this program, and I've been looking forward to this hour. Let me just jump ahead, and I'll jump back in just a second. Make sure I got my facts straight here. My last count, I had you at 77 out of 100 countries that you promised to travel to, wanted to travel to. Is the number 77, or am I slightly off at this point?
No, you are correct. It is at 77.
Okay.
I had to put 3 countries on hold at the end of last year that I had already booked and was ready to go, but had to cancel them.
All right. So the number 77, and we'll talk about that as we move through this hour a little bit later. But I want to start where I was a moment ago, and that is with this story that I remember well. I've been in L.A., of course, for a long time, and I remember this story all over the news when it happened about this brother I remember because it happened on. There were two things happening around that weekend. There were the Emmys that were jumping off here in L.A. And I think that's the same weekend where they murdered Michael Brown. Is that the right weekend? Am I there? Am I there, Charles?
It was actually the weekend, the Friday before the Tuesday funeral of Michael Brown.
The funeral. That's right. I knew there was a Michael Brown connection somewhere in there. So my memory's halfway right. But it was an interesting time in the nation. We were on the eve of the funeral of Michael Brown. And Charles Belk is falsely arrested by Beverly Hills cops for an armed bank robbery. So I am going to pass the mic to you, turn my mic off for the next few minutes, and let you take the reins and tell the story. I know you've told it before, but not to this audience. So tell the story of what happened, Charles.
Well, it's interesting because those two other incidents or activities that were going on were crucial to me and my particular situation. It was Friday, August the 22nd, hot day in L.A. I had just been hanging out with a friend of mine because we were going to some pre-Emmy festivities that evening because it was Emmy's weekend. And I was actually running back to my car to put some money in the meter. And my friend had went to return a cell phone that we had actually found on the street. And so as I'm running, a phone call comes in. I slow down to a walk. Right when I slowed down to a walk, it wasn't a phone call, it was a text. I'm sorry. Right as I slowed down to a walk, a officer on a police motorcycle pulled over to the curb and said, "Hey, come here, sit down on the curb for me and cross your legs." And I looked at him, but I immediately obeyed because, as you said, it was the weekend, the Friday before the Tuesday funeral of Michael Brown. And so all of those images were all over the media. And the one thing that I did not want to be was one of those images all over the media. So I immediately, just went and sit down on the curb. I figured this would play itself out. They would tell me, obviously there was a reason for them stopping me, and this would work itself out. Turns out that the bank that I had just passed, probably I was, maybe 30 feet from it, but the bank that I had just passed had been robbed. And it was robbed by a woman, actually, and she was famous because she was like the bandit, the purse bandit, I think. She had hit Los Angeles County, Orange County, Ventura County, 7 counties, I believe, in L.A. And there was this tall, bald black guy that apparently was going in and out of the bank from the ATM machine, complaining about the ATM machine, which they said the guy was involved because he was creating a disturbance, creating a diffusion, a
distraction.
Distraction,
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so before I knew it, I'm on the curb, hands behind my back, legs spread out. Within probably 7 to 10 seconds, I had 4 police officers around me holding their hands on the gun. I was then handcuffed. And they took me through this. And I sat on the curb for probably about 45 minutes. This was on a Friday on La Cienega Boulevard at the corner of Wilshire, near the corner of Wilshire, on rush hour traffic. So traffic was backed up. Everybody driving by, totally looking at me, sitting down on the curb during this moment. And so eventually they decided to put me in the back of the car, take me to the police station where they never read me my rights, but where they handcuffed me and took a photo and put me in the jail cell. And I found out the next day that I was actually being held on a $100,000 bond for assisting in a federal offense, robbing a bank.
Hold that thought. We just getting started. I'm not laughing, but I am, because it is so insane. You got a woman robbing banks and a brother ends up behind bars. Kendrick, that was last hour. I'm talking now to Charles Belk. Charles Belk will continue this story when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
There's only a few days left for open enrollment, starting at $0 a month. LA Care Covered offers the benefits you need to achieve your health goals. $0 preventive services, 24/7 virtual care and nurse advice lines, walk-in minute clinics, free fitness and nutrition classes, and more. Become a member of LA's most affordable health plan. Get a free instant quote at lacarecovered.org. Have open enrollment questions? Connect with us today at 855-222-4239. Find your affordable path to wellness with LA Care Covered today.
Jim was at the laundromat when he heard his ear said Maraca, senor, but his nose said, hey, freshest scent ever. Following his nose, Jim found the man pouring Gain scent beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, sir, your scent Maraca smell amazing. You could call them scent maracas, but most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
She's so smooth. So I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
Hey, I came as fast as I could. What's wrong?
Everything's okay. I just need you to know I'm glowing up.
You just texted SOS Get Here Now.
And I stand by that because I switched to Cricket and got the all-new Motorola Razr. I have entered my flip era, and I am glowing up.
I'm gonna go back home.
I support that.
Switch to Cricket and get the all-new Motorola Razr for $199.99. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Must open a new line on a $60 a month voice plan. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You're actually listening to Charles Belk on Tavis Smiley. All right, Charles Belk, we're at the point now where they have picked you up off the curb. They threw you in the back of the paddy wagon. They've taken you to I'm laughing only because I'm thinking of Beverly Hills Cop, right? Eddie Murphy. That's the place they took you to?
They did take me to, and I can honestly say I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because everything that you can imagine and saw on Beverly Hills Cop, that was what it was like. I went into, and this is no laughing matter for me at this point.
Sure.
But I went into this jail cell, and it was a private jail cell. I'm on. They gave me food within, I don't know, probably 30 minutes of being in there. Passed me through a tray of food in. It had its own bathroom in there. They had the nerve to have an architectural digest on the coffee table that was beside the bed.
Of all the magazines in the world, because you're in Beverly Hills, you got an AD, an architectural digest.
Yes. So It was, it was my first time ever in jail, and I can't imagine that all jails are like that. But as far as jails goes, it wasn't that bad.
All right, I got to stop laughing because, again, I'm having all these images of Beverly Hills Cop and Eddie, what Eddie went through. But to your point, this is no laughing matter. You've been wrongfully accused. You've been wrongfully arrested. You're in a jail cell in Beverly Hills. What happens next?
I'm in this jail cell. The guard who brought me in to the system, who booked me, who, by the way, when I looked at her and I said, man, this is like a nightmare. She looked at me and said, yes, this is a very serious crime that you have committed, right? There was no trial, no jury, no nothing. She just kind of tried and judged me right there by saying that. Anyway, she came back there. She said, are you Charles Belk? I was the only person in the jail cell that night. She said, are you Charles Belk? And this is the same woman who had booked me. I was like, yes. Why? She said, because you didn't make any phone calls, but there's an attorney up asking for Charles Belk. I was like, whoever it is, I am the person that they're looking for. And so, because one of the parts I left out, when I was handcuffed on the curb, my friend walked by across the street. And I told him to call my friend, who happened to be the executive director of the NAACP Hollywood Bureau at the time. He called her, and she called an attorney. And so they had all these people on a quiet Friday night in the police department waiting room area. And it was the attorney that she had called, his date, because they had come in from Ventura County from a black tie affair. My friend from the Hollywood Bureau of the NAACP, and a friend of hers, and then the friend that I was with early that evening. So all these people were in, and there was a big ruckus going on because they would not let the attorney see his client. So, he's citing California code and how they're breaking statute and all this. Well, it was a Friday night, and so they had to call before they wanted my attorney to see me, they had called the detective, the Beverly Hills Police Department detective, and because it was a federal crime, they had called the 2 FBI agents. So on a Friday night, about 11:30 or so, they finally get down there. And they bring me in. We go through this conversation. I was like, look, this wasn't me. And I'm sure there's plenty of cameras around there that you guys can look at and see that this wasn't me. So let me just go home. I'm not going anywhere. I live right down the street. If you need me, I'm going to be here. And so I looked at them and I said, you guys did look at the videos, right? And they hadn't even watched the videos. They hadn't watched any surveillance cameras at all, even though this was a bank in the corner of a very popular area in L.A. And so they went out and finally let my attorney come in and talk to me. And within 3 minutes of me sitting down to talk to my attorney, they came in, pulled him out, and said I was free to go. They looked at the tape and saw that it wasn't. So, I left that night, and I just got home in my apartment, and it was probably 1:30 in the morning. And I couldn't believe what had happened. I had sat there in the dark. My phone finally charged back up, and I got these, text messages from a friend of mine who was an actor in Hollywood. And his text message said, "What are you doing tonight?" Because he was having the games nights from earlier. And so that right there just set me off. And I sent him a text message and probably 100 other people saying, let me tell you what I did tonight.
Yeah, what I did.
And then that turned, exactly. So that turned into a Facebook post, which went viral because it was a picture of me handcuffed on the curb. And then that turned into a lot of international media, which then led forward to me kicking off some legislative criminal justice reform activity.
Yep. I promise we'll get to that in a moment here, your legislative work, and then we'll get to your traveling around the world to these 100 countries. You're country number 77 right now. For those that may have just tuned in, we'll get a lot more to talk about with Charles Buck in that regard. But let me stay with this piece for a moment. So from beginning to end, from the moment you slowed down running and to read this text, and this Beverly Hills motorcycle cop tells you to sit on the curb, to the time you walk back into your place, how many hours were you caught up in this matrix, as it were?
I want to say from probably about a little after 5 p.m. to a little before, 5 p.m. to a little before 1 a.m. So 7-8 hours or so.
Yeah. That's my first question. My second question is how upset were you? And that's my word. You can frame it the way you want to frame it. But how upset, disappointed, angry, you tell me, were you that you were caught up in this ordeal for all those hours, and these idiots, these cops, these detectives, had not looked at the tape?
So upset wouldn't be the first word I would choose, because I'm going to tell you the emotions, the string of emotions that I went through.
Yeah.
When I was sitting down on the curb, as I told you, the first thing I was thinking about, I did not want to end up on the ground, on my stomach, with gunshots in my back, with people and everybody seeing that. That was the first thing that was going through my back. This is my mind. The second thing was that, hey, something has happened, and they're going to sort this all out. I'm just going to wait it out. They clearly got a job to do, and there's been some mistakes, and they're going to sort this out. But I think my first really ill emotion is when probably the fifth, the arresting officer, the fifth police officer that came up, he pulled up in his car. He rushed out of his car, even though I was sitting on the curb already with my legs crossed. There was 4 officers around me. They were talking. Everything was calm. He rushes out of his car, rushes over to me like, I don't know, like he's crazy or something, and then immediately pulled my arms behind my hands up to put handcuffs on him. And I'm like, what? I'm thinking to myself, okay, now this has gone a little bit too long. And so then they proceeded, and I overheard them talking, and I heard the guy say to the arresting officer, I don't think this is the right guy. And I heard that conversation. But apparently, while they had me out there for 4 days, they had a bank employee that had drove by and somehow identified me with my bald head down, and identified me as that guy who was involved in it. And so that emotion got to me. The next emotion that really affected me was when this a booking officer kind of tried and convicted me right there on the spot.
Sure.
And I think any emotions after that was just disbelief. I went through a period because I, within 2 days, did all this national media, or within 3 or 4 days, did all this national media. I'm talking, CNN, everybody.
Sure.
And I then literally go home and sleep with my door locked because I was scared. I had these nightmares of police officers ramming my door open because I've told this story and coming into my bedroom and pulling me out. So, that kind of was the end of the kind of sadness and fear kind of emotion. And then I really just kind of switched into this kind of advocacy. They got me, but let's see what we could do so that they don't get anybody else like me in the future.
Yeah.
And that's when I went into that mode. So I think that the probably most fulfilling memory that I could remember is after a year or so, and I'm standing over with the governor in North Carolina with 40 of my family and friends and high school classmates, my principal of high school, my mom, all my aunties, in the governor's mansion, who was a Republican governor at the time, and he's signing my first legislation into law in North Carolina. And at that moment, it took me back to another disbelief looking at how this all happened, because truth be told, Tavis, this could have went a whole lot of different ways, right?
No
Say
question.
if I wouldn't have hurt this officer and kept running. Say if I would have been, like, why are you arresting me? I'm not going to sit down. I'm not going to do this. No, say if I would have fought that in any way whatsoever. And so I think no matter how much I tell this story, even now, after so many years, because this is the 10th year anniversary of my wrongful arrest, I still will get emotional at thinking about what possibly could have happened.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. There are things that could have happened. This story could have gone so many different ways. And as we say, there but for the grace of God, right? So anything could have happened. Speaking of God, I want to come back to that in a moment. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because it is, of course, the 10th anniversary of this story that I remember quite well. But I also want to talk about what you've done in that 10-year period and these countries you're traveling to. We'll get to that, as I said earlier, a little bit later in this conversation. So it is 10 years later. I should have said that earlier, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get Charles on the program. That said, a couple quick questions. How did you feel in the moment where this police officer, this white woman, says to you, yeah, you committed a pretty serious crime? When she looks at you, knows nothing of you, they ain't looked at the tape, but she knows nothing about you or your background, your upbringing, none of that, but looks at you and says you committed a pretty serious crime. How did you process that in that moment?
To be honest with you, I think at that point I looked at her and I was still in kind of disbelief of what was going on. So it didn't register. It didn't actually register until much later when I thought about what she had said and how she had tried and convicted me. And, because my last words to the two FBI agents and the detective was that I looked at the FBI agent and I said to her, because she was like if you have a good cop, bad cop, she was truly the bad cop. She was like, we know you didn't rob the bank, but you was involved in this and blah, blah, like she was really trying to go in on me. And I looked at her when they said, at the free, because they handed me a piece of paper and said, hey, you were not arrested. You were only detained. And this is your certificate of detention. And so I looked and I looked at the paper and I said to her, listen, I am confident that we will see each other again. Because I had no idea at that moment what I was going to do or what was going to happen, but I was confident that it was not going to sit and end there.
Yeah. I mentioned God earlier, and I said I wanted to come back to that because let me just start with this. I don't mean to proselytize or make you proselytize or guilty of proselytization. But are you a person of faith? I'm just curious.
I'm a Southern Baptist man, so yes,
Okay.
indeed. My mother dragged me to church as a child.
All right. So since you are a person of faith and were then in that moment, talk to me about how this experience in real time, and of course you can assess it as you look back on it, but just give me a sense of what this did, how this challenged and tried your faith in that moment. Because here you are, you ain't done nothing but minded your own business, and here you are in a jail cell being accused of bank robbery, FBI agents hanging around. I mean, this is a pretty serious situation. We've laughed about parts of this, but to your earlier point, ain't really nothing funny about this. We just laugh about the Beverly Hills connection with Eddie Murphy in the movie and some of the things you had to experience at the cell. But tell me what this did in real time to your faith.
So I'm going to tell you before I answer the faith question, what I will say is that for me, I truly was in disbelief most of the time because I first was calm and I was like, okay, they're going to sort all of this out. Then I was in disbelief. Did this just happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And then as I went through the trauma the next few nights of thinking that, police were breaking into, I went through this whole fear phase that my faith piece truly came in as I went through that next year, because as we'll talk about doing the legislation piece, I went through a lot of stuff that next year. And the book that I went away to write, and that's what started me to traveling, which I'll tell you about. But the book that I went away to write is, fitting the description, how my faith took me from handcuffed on the curb to making a difference, mad. And so it was definitely my faith, because I don't know how many laws you've tried to have put in place, Tavis, but it is a process, and you see things that as a non-elective official, you see things that you just can't believe, and it definitely, that process more than the arrest process probably tested my faith through that whole ordeal.
Now, if that... I'm laughing again.
Think about it, Tavis.
Yeah.
Think about it. From my perspective, I'm thinking to myself, I'm innocent, right? I didn't do anything. I got this arrest record that needs to get rid of, right? This is happening to hundreds, thousands of people every day. And so it is a no-brainer to me that if you are wrongfully arrested because you fit the description, for making mistaken identity, for whatever the reason is, once they say, hey, we made a mistake, which is what they said to me. We made a mistake. It's not you. We're sorry, blah, blah. Then, fine, we make mistakes. We're human. They were trying to do their jobs, allegedly. My point is that however my record was before you made your mistake, I shouldn't have to do anything for my record to look exactly the same way afterwards.
That's right.
And so that was a no-brainer to me, that once they had said, okay, you are innocent, they never took me to court, you don't have no more charges or anything, that was a no-brainer that legislative acts should be put in place that says, hey, this person's record will be automatically expunged.
Yeah. No, when we come forward, we'll come to that part of the story. Here again, the reason why I wanted to have you on 10 years later, because you have an insider's view now. But it is a pretty damning indictment of our political process that a black man who's been wrongfully arrested and could have died in the process will tell you, as he just did, that navigating that was child's play as compared to trying to navigate the legislative process of getting a bill passed into law. That is a pretty serious indictment of our system. I'll put a pin in that for the moment. When we come forward, we'll hear the rest of the story from Charles Belk, specifically the part that got him motivated to do something on behalf of those who've been wrongfully arrested and the difficulty he had trying to get bills turned into law. We'll talk about that and then work our way into these 77 countries he's been traveling to around the globe trying to help others. You're listening right now, and I'm glad about it, to Charles Belk on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But When you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful they saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A new California law prohibiting people from carrying concealed guns in public places is hitting another roadblock. An appeals court decision on Saturday is upholding a U.S. District Judge ruling last month that blocks the law, agreeing that it violates the Second Amendment. The law, signed by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, prohibits people from carrying concealed guns in many types of places, including public parks, playgrounds, churches, banks, and zoos. The Young Slime Life gang trial is resuming in Fulton County, Georgia. African-American rapper Young Thug and 5 other defendants are in court facing multiple charges in the racketeering case. Prosecutors expect the trial could last a few more months. One of the founding members of the gang took the stand for 2 days last week. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Without question, the number one story for NFL Wildcard Weekend is a first-round matchup between the Rams and Detroit Lions. The Rams are at Detroit next Sunday at 5 p.m. Detroit is where Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford played 12 of his 15 NFL seasons. Stafford came to the Rams in a trade 3 years ago that sent former Rams quarterback Jared Goff to Detroit. Both will be starting on Sunday against their former team. The Lakers snapped their 4-game losing streak Sunday night with a 3-point win over the Clippers. LeBron had 25 points and 7 assists. Shout out to the UCLA women's basketball team. The Bruins are 14-0 after beating Oregon State Sunday. The Bruins are ranked number 2 in the country. They joined Baylor and South Carolina as the only Division I undefeated women's teams in the country. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Nearly 3,000 teen drivers die in car crashes each year. Tire Rack Street Survival is designed to save lives. The one-day hands-on driving school gives teens experience in car control through exercises that include emergency braking and skid recovery. Find a class near you at TireRack.com/survive.
Skincare is self-care, and with daily beauty steals of 50% off during Ulta Beauty's Love Your Skin event, I can find everything I need to make loving my skin a daily practice, from brands like Osea, Lancome, and Tula. And I can shop weekly skin and wellness deals of 30% off more must-have brands. Plus, see what's new from brands like Bubble and in select stores, Sol de Janeiro and Ulla Henriksen. Hurry, event ends January 20th. Shop in store, online, or try pickup today. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful. Conditions apply.
We're for Washington. We love Febrez's new scent. Refresh and energize.
So much we made a song about it.
Granddad, what's good? Hey there, got us a quarter pounder with cheese and McNuggets. Wow, haven't had our special McDonald's order in a minute. Heard your little tic-tac-toe dance didn't get no likes. Oh man, is Mom telling everybody? You know she is.
There's a deal for every favorite grandson at McDonald's. Right now, get one favorite like a quarter pounder with cheese or 10-piece chicken McNuggets and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area. featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and Charles Belk as we continue this conversation about what it feels like 10 years later to have been wrongfully arrested by Beverly Hills cops for an armed robbery that you had nothing, armed bank robbery that you had nothing to do with, and what his life has been like since then, and the work he's done legislatively to help others who have been wrongfully arrested. Say nothing of his commitment to travel to 100 countries around the globe to help other persons, and he's now hit 77 of those 100. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But I was opining, as you heard Charles moments ago, and really echoing you in my opining about the fact that you can be a black man who's sitting on a curb in Beverly Hills, wrongfully accused and arrested and detained for being involved in a bank robbery that you had nothing to do with, and all the drama attendant to that almost pales in comparison to the drama that one deals with when one is working, trying to get legislation passed to protect others who are similarly disenfranchised. It's again, a pretty damning indictment of the way our process works. But tell me a bit more now about what some of your takeaways, if I can put it that way, for the work that you've done getting laws passed across the country to protect people who've been wrongfully accused. What's that journey been like? That part, as black people say these days, that part.
Oh, absolutely. I will tell you, Tavis, you had talked earlier about faith. And one of the things that I believe we all have to go through things, because when you go through things, that's what makes your faith stronger, because you see yourself how you are at the end of that. And I've been through a lot in my life, and I think the reason why my faith is so strong is because I've saw the other end of what I've gone through. And getting wrongfully arrested is no exception to that. In fact, while I had to go through that period, that moment in my life, I think that it is now benefiting a lot of other people after me. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I said, hey, I posted on Facebook, and someone reached out to me and said, you know, Charles, I have a friend who's a state legislator in Illinois, and he's from Chicago, and we're having the same problem in Chicago. I think he might want to talk to you. We spoke. He said, I sure can introduce this bill in the state legislature. So I had no idea that was even a thing. And once he told me that, I immediately started thinking, because I'm a great learn and apply type of person, is that, hey, if this state legislator is interested, maybe there are other state legislators that are interested. So the first access that I had was to go to the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference in D.C. in September.
Sure.
Met some state legislators there, started talking to them. Then I found out about the National Black Caucus of State Legislators organization and the National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators. They were having conferences in December. I went to both of those, then started getting all these state legislators to committed to introduce my legislation to. At this point, 10 years later, we have had legislation, and it was a simple bill at first, and it has taken on many different nuances in the states that it is submitted in. But it was a simple bill. If you're wrongfully arrested for mistaken identity, then your record will be automatically expunged. It was called the Auto Erase Criminal Justice Reform legislation. And that's been introduced in, 28, 29, 30 different states to this point. It is now a law in 19 states. And that's exciting for me because within my first year, 2 states, North Carolina, my home state, was the first state to sign it in law. Illinois became the second state to sign it in law. So to see that whole process at this point, and because you got to remember, I was a non-elected official, I was a layman, and sure, it was a difficult process to navigate. It was a great learning experience for me, but I still will stand high on the fact that as a active citizen, one person can make a difference, and everybody should try. Everybody should try to make a difference.
What do you make of the fact that, and I'm not naive in asking this, but what do you make of the fact, Charles, that such a benign piece of legislation could have such difficulty getting passed. To your point, all the bill said was, it's called auto erase. Auto as in automatically, auto erase. All the bill said, as you mentioned a moment ago, is that if you are, arrested wrongfully or falsely for mistaken identity, then your record gets expunged immediately. No questions asked. It's pretty basic, and yet
it is pretty basic. And this is the piece, Tavis, that I was kind of alluding to before. Yeah. So I don't want to name states by name, but what I will say is that in one state, right, where you had a Republican House and a Republican Senate, they didn't understand anything about being wrongfully arrested for mistaken identity. That don't happen to them. So what the legislator did was attach to it mistaken identity or identity theft. Now that they could wrap their arms around, because they could wrap their arms around my identity being stolen. I haphazardly getting pulled over by the cops for questioning, and they say, "Oh wait, you got these records out because somebody is using your identity, and that person been arrested for this, this, and this." So that was what it took to make it through the process in one state. In another state, it was all about the fact that the legislator was a freshman legislator. He was all on board of my cause, a freshman legislator, but senior and his party was in control of both the House and Senate in this particular state. However, because he was a freshman legislator, he hadn't proved himself. He hadn't shown party loyalty. They didn't know how he was going to vote on the budget, on other certain party initiatives. And so until they saw that, they wouldn't support his legislation.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just crazy. I could not believe it. Now, this state ended up giving me, I went up and visited this state, and it's funny, right? Because, again, I am a non-elected official, but I went to this function with all these state legislators and was, introducing myself and talking to them. The next day, I was on the floor of the House, and they passed a resolution honoring me and my legislation. And then during the session that year, they actually passed the bill into law. So it is amazing that what just seems to make sense, that's simple, that's easy. You'll get there's been states where the legislation has been pushed up because police officers was like, well, wait, what if we need this record later? What if this person then goes off and commits a serious crime? We won't have any access to these records if this law passed. Yeah. And so I've had conversations with, state law enforcement agencies, with local law enforcement agencies to try to bridge that whole concept and understanding what is going on. Funny story, when I moved back to the U.S. in January to provide full-time care for my mom, I had got a speeding ticket because I hadn't driven in a couple of years. So, a little heavy-footed, I'm driving, get a little speeding ticket in my city. They go down to try to, because I hadn't had a ticket since 99. They go and try to get my ticket waived, and my attorney said that the assistant DA said, we can't do this because we don't know how many other situations where his ticket was waived because we no longer have access to that kind of information. If a ticket was never processed or went to court, by North Carolina law now, my law, it has to be expunged. So I became a victim in a negative way of my own law.
That I didn't see that coming, Charles.
I know. I didn't see it coming either, but it was definitely the true story.
Wow. When we come forward, I want to, first of all, let me ask you right quick, is your precious mother still with us?
She is still with us, and I am a caregiver all year long. When I came back from South Africa to thinking that she only had 2 weeks to 4 months to live, I figured out what the problem was, got her back to life, and I am now me and my brother split time, and I actually have COVID today. Found out I had COVID a day and a half ago, and so I'm trying to isolate from her, but still have to provide care for her, feeding her medicine. She's on oxygen, so she's not independent at all. She needs everything done for her, but she is still alive and kicking.
And how much longer has she lived beyond those 2 weeks you expected her to live?
A year. It was exactly a year ago. I came back from South Africa at the wedding on January the 14th of 2023.
Yeah. No, that's a blessing, man. That's a blessing to have your precious mother. We ain't got but one of them, and I'm just glad to hear.
She's 92, man, and I'm excited for her.
No, that's even more of a blessing. She's 92 and she's still here. So thank God for Jesus in that regard. So when we come forward, I do want to ask what you have learned in this journey, and we'll get to your journey for real, in a moment here. These 100 countries you're on your way to, 77 down, a few more to go. I want to hear from you what you have learned in this ordeal about turning pain into power, about turning anger into advocacy. We'll hear Charles' take on that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
I have a dream.
On Friday, January 12th, as we head into Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. annual holiday weekend, KBLA Talk 1580 will announce a historic climate justice campaign aimed at California communities of color. KBLA Talk 1580 is joined in this historic effort by both public and private partners including LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, Cal and Dow, the Sierra Club, and many other partners. There's a clear connection between Dr. King's moral conscience on the notion of reverence for all human life and the future of our world house. This year, on the MLK holiday weekend, KBLA assigns itself the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are witnessing in real time. Stay tuned for more details. At KBLA Talk 1580, Climate is king.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
At Lowe's, save big every day when you buy in bulk. Save up to 40% on molding bulk savings packs. And there's more. Save up to 25% on drywall boards when you buy in bulk. Visit us in-store or online for low prices on the materials you need. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details.
It's Macy's one-day sale now with great deals of the day, like 40 to 60% off handbags, shoes, and accessories to complete any look, 50 to 65% off warm, on-trend coats for her, and 50% off designer bedding from Hotel Collection and more. Plus, get your online order even faster when you pick up in-store or curbside at Macy's. Savings off sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Charles Belk coming your way right about now. Charles, tell me what you've learned in this ordeal, and we'll, in our last moments, talk about your travel, your world travel. But what have you learned? I think the answer will be, again, instructive and informative for this audience. What have you learned about turning pain into power, turning anger into advocacy? Here you were, sitting on a sidewalk, wrongfully accused of a bank robbery as a black man. There could be all kind of bitterness. I know folk who've gone through ordeals and never quite gotten over it. You could still be just bitter about that, but you've not just been bitter, you've been better, and you've made life better for other people by passing laws in all these states to protect those who have been wrongfully arrested, wrongfully detained. But what have you learned about turning that pain into power?
Over the last 10 years, I've learned a lot. But if I had to sum it up in 3 things, I would say, 1, you have to tell your story and you have to own it. Getting out there telling your story first helps you control the narrative. And in my case, my narrative was true. But whether it was true or false, I owned it and I controlled it, and it helped things flow from that point forward. I think the second thing is that you got to pick and choose your battle. Sitting down there in that curved handcuff was not the right time for me to be yelling or arguing or saying you're wrong. Like, I knew I had no control. They had virtually taken all control from me at that night and that evening. So I knew my time would come to fight that battle. Fighting it right then was not the time. And I think the third and most important thing, as I alluded to before, the quote by John F. Kennedy, one person can make a difference, everybody should try, that lived with me from the beginning of this process. Once I found it, and it is what guided me and helped me through everything that I did with regards to this criminal justice reform legislation process.
I love all three of your points. That first one completely resonates with me, and when you laid it out, my mind went to the late, great Harry Belafonte, my dear friend, Mr. B, who I miss dearly. But his advice to me, and he gave me a lot of great advice during his lifetime, but he said to me, Tavis, your mission, your job is to get the world to sing your song. We all have a song, and you got to get the world to sing your song. And it was great advice from the late, great Harry Belafonte. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Charles Belk, we'll talk about 77 of these 100 countries he's traveling to, down, a few more to go. We'll talk about that part when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth. Speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, in downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
I'm going to try this right quick, see how fast I can do it. Trinidad, Tobago, Egypt, Serbia, Montenegro, Albania, Uganda, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Argentina, Croatia, Bulgaria, Ireland, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Belgium, Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine, Namibia, Mozambique, Eswatini, Botswana, Lesotho, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Kenya, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Morocco, Portugal, Gibraltar, Spain, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Peru, Ecuador, Sweden, Denmark, UK, Netherlands, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Brazil, St. Lucia, Canada, Dominican Republic, Mexico, South Africa, Jamaica, France, Switzerland, Austria, Yugoslavia, Turkey, Greece, Italy, Germany, Luxembourg, United States, 77 countries that Charles Belk has visited, promises to go to 100. Charles, that is quite the list, my friend.
It is, and I'm going to tell you, it's always half-it, Tavis, because the wrongful arrest and the Criminal Justice Reform Legislative Act are intriguing and interesting stories, and they always get at the most of the attention before I get to the travel piece. So I'm going to make a plug now, so please have me back, because one of the things that I've been trying to push since I started traveling for people is to just pack and go. Mm-hmm. And it's an easy thing. And while you read off 77 countries for me, I am not. Most folks that travel vacation, and I consider myself a traveler. And if you're on social media at all, there are tons of travelers out there that, some go out for that social media shot. Some are engaging into the culture, and that's been one of the things that I've tried to do over the past 6 or 7 years since I've been traveling is, seeing what I can do, because we as Americans are just so blessed. And there are so many less fortunate people, and you might think you don't know much, but anything you know, there is a good chance it is more than what some of the people in some of the countries that you will travel to will know. And you can depart little pieces of information on them that could virtually change their life.
No, I promise to have you back. We'll get to another conversation just about the travel. I promise you, but because it was the 10th anniversary of this arrest, I wanted to start there. But I promise, you'll get back here sooner than you think. Number one. Number two, I'm thinking of Quincy Jones, my friend, who always says to me, every place you travel, Tavis, do three things. Eat their food, listen to their music, and learn a few words in their language, and you'll become a citizen of the world. Listen to their music, eat their food, and learn a few words in their language, and you will become a citizen of the world. Very quickly here, speaking of travel, we'll pick up this conversation when Charles is next on this program. City I dislike, Kampala, Uganda. The city he thinks is overrated, Bangkok, Thailand. The city he really likes, Johannesburg, South Africa. The city he loves, Budapest, Hungary. The city he feels most himself in, Paris, France. The city I still need to visit, Seoul, South Korea. And the city I dream of living in, Bora Bora, Tahiti. Don't we all? I'll leave it right there. Charles, when you come on this program again, we'll pick up our conversation talking about your travel with that list that I just laid out of your likes and dislikes. In the meantime, take care of yourself. Get rid of that COVID. Number one. Number two, give our love to your precious mother. Number two. Number three, have a great rest of the day, and I will talk to you soon. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely, and I thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley tomorrow when we come forward, Lord willing. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A new California law prohibiting people from carrying concealed guns in public places is hitting another roadblock. An appeals court decision on Saturday is upholding a U.S. District Judge ruling last month that blocks the law, agreeing that it violates the Second Amendment. The law, signed by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, prohibits people from carrying concealed guns in many types of places, including public parks, playgrounds, churches, banks, and zoos. The Young Slime Life gang trial is resuming in Fulton County, Georgia. African-American rapper Young Thug and 5 other defendants are in court facing multiple charges in the racketeering case. Prosecutors expect the trial could last a few more months. One of the founding members of the gang took the stand for 2 days last week. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers are back in action tonight. They play Phoenix at Crypto.com, 7:30 tip-off. The Lakers are off today. They're at home Tuesday night against Toronto. Tiger Woods is leaving Nike after a 27-year connection. When Tiger was 21, he signed his first endorsement deal with Nike in 1997, a deal that paid him $20 million a year. He signed a 10-year contract with Nike in 2013 worth $200 million. That deal expired at the end of 2023. 2 NFL head coaches were fired Monday morning: Ron Rivera in Washington and Arthur Smith in Atlanta. Another chance for the NFL to improve its diversity issues. Only 3 of the NFL's 32 teams have a black head coach. By the way, all 3 have their team in the playoffs right now. Mike Tomlin with Pittsburgh, Todd Bowles of Tampa Bay, and D'Amico Ryan with Houston. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, pursuing justice through participatory democracy. Listen to KBLA Talk 1580 Saturday morning, January 13th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for an exclusive forum featuring the candidates for LA County District Attorney. Join KBLA's Tavis Smiley as he helps navigate what promises to be a forum full of fire when the candidates trying to unseat current LADA George Gascon come together on stage on the campus of the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. Again, it's the LA County District Attorney Forum, live, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, Saturday morning, January 13th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Helping to raise your civic IQ. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Welcome forward now. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson, here on KBLA Talk 1580, and we are creating millionaires, one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time, and that means you. I am so excited about the Millionaires Roundtable because this is where we get to get the knowledge that we need, that we don't necessarily know, and that nobody is necessarily reporting or telling us that we need to know. My big brother Les Brown says people fail in life because they don't know what they don't know and they think they know. So I want to talk about the top mistakes that you make in youth that you regret later in life. The top mistakes that you make in your 20s that you regret in your 40s and 50s. You might not even really understand it in your 30s yet because you spend time trying to fix up what you messed up in your 20s. The top mistakes that you make in your 20s and possibly even throughout your 30s while you're trying to recover and while you're trying to set the record straight financially, that you regret in your 40s and 50s, and Don't even get me started on your 50s and 60s and 70s. These are the top mistakes that we make. And it mostly comes from lack of knowledge. And sometimes it also comes from a lack of desire to even understand the knowledge. I saw a post on social media just some time ago, and the young man is basically saying he loves living beyond his means. He is doing well-ish. I thought, okay, some people are reveling in the whole idea of being financially irresponsible. And I know that that was my situation at one point in my life when I was living check to Monday. I knew things were out of control, but I was having too much fun to stop. I was having too much fun, or maybe I wasn't having fun, but I was too busy trying to be something that I was not. And I was too busy burying my head in the sand in order to actually do something about the problem that I knew good and well I had. And the problem that I had was that I never had enough money. No matter how much money I made, I always found a way to be broke. And it's not like I didn't know I was broke when I was broke. Because let me tell you something. One thing you know for sure is